Ketchup or ranch?
Ketchup.
Okay. Start work late or leave work early?
Leave work early, I would say.
I agree.
Yeah.
Babies dressed as animals or animals dressed as humans? That's a hard one.
Animals dress as humans, because I can't even picture that, and it would be interesting to see that happen.
Perfect.
So.
Yeah, I can't picture that either, actually.
Yeah.
Sight or sound?
Sound. I own a music venue.
Logic or emotion?
Emotion.
Passion or stability?
Passion.
Success or happiness?
I feel like they go hand in hand, so I'm going to go happiness, because I feel like that is kind of success.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Money or love?
Love.
Pineapple pizza or candy corn?
Pineapple pizza.
Okay.
I don't like candy corn, to be honest.
You know, some people, it's this or that, I guess.
It's funny because it looks like the earplugs that we give out downstairs. It literally looks
have
like
the candy corn?
Yeah, well, it's like an orange earplug and it looks like candy corn. So whenever I see candy corn, it's like, you put that stuff in your ears. I don't want to.
That's a good prank.
So,
That's a good prank right there.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to the first episode of Marketing by the Minute Season 2. This season is called On the Scene because we're going to alumni's places of business. This podcast is being created, run, and edited by a team of students from the Integrated Marketing Communications class here at Western. We're your hosts. I'm Steinar Mikkelson.
I'm Talia Aukema-Gray.
And today we are here at the Blue Room with Ben Hodson, one of the co-founders of the Blue Room. So Ben is a recent graduate from Western's marketing program and an early career alum. He's also the co-founder of Hodwall Productions, and they have the goal of reviving and revitalizing the music community and art community as society continues to open up. And the Blue Room is owned and operated by Hodwall Productions as a central hub to conduct business instead of working together through other music venues.
Ben, we're so excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Ben, tell us a little bit about your background. Where are you from, and how did you end up in Bellingham attending Western?
Yeah, so I mean, I went to high school in Olympia. I went to Olympia High School, graduated in 2017, and I played the trumpet since I was 8 years old, so music is really like my baby. I performed a musician for many, many years. I soloed with the symphony my senior year of high school, and I knew that I wanted to continue doing music into college, but I felt like I didn't want that to be my major study of focus because I wanted to develop a more broad set of skills, and I already knew that I was really good at music. And so basically, I came into Western as a freshman, and I basically knew that I wanted to do business, but I didn't actually have a goal of solidifying it in marketing. I kind of just had a general business idea, and to be quite frank, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, to be completely honest. So yeah, I came in with the goal of, of course I was doing some of the general GURs as a freshman and then taking some business courses, but I knew that I wanted to do something in the business of music, right? Whether that would be, something music related as a personal artist or something administrative, I wasn't quite sure yet, right? So I actually joined a freshman interest group led by Lucas Senger, who then introduced me to the Arts and Enterprise Cultural Innovation minor. And I proceeded to do that. I got in my sophomore year of college because I had some previous credits coming in from Running Start. Typically people get in their junior year, but I was able to get it done a little bit early. Nice. And I did get a minor in music too, and I got that done in a year. So I ended up graduating with a marketing degree and a double minor with Arts and Enterprise Cultural Innovation and music. And throughout my tenure at college, I led a couple of passion projects. One of the biggest ones to date was when I was between my freshman and sophomore year of college. I produced and managed and ran. Basically, I had this vision of making a music video to raise money for an organization called International Justice Mission, which is basically they are a Canadian organization that raises money to raise awareness and fund the fight against human trafficking. And I made an arrangement cover of Rise Up by Andra Day, and I arranged that music, and I basically arranged the recording studio session, got a bunch of musicians together, put it up on YouTube, promoted it, did the whole 9 yards, and it gained a decent amount of traction for where I was at in my career. And that was an example of me like integrating all of my skills with like music and marketing and putting a lot of that together. And I think that was kind of the point where I decided after that was released that I wanted to do a marketing focus, because I realized like, wow, like what I'm doing right now is promotion, and marketing it seems like one of the most important parts of business, right? Like to me, in my mind, I think about like, what are the two most crucial things in business that you literally couldn't have? Accounting and marketing. I don't like accounting. I'm not a huge numbers guy. I'm a very creative person. It's very vital. But you know what? Marketing for me made a lot more sense to what I wanted to do. And I also had this just kind of idea that like, I didn't want to be too vague in my studies with business because I wanted to have a specialty in one thing, right? I wanted to get the full scope. I wanted to know the basics of accounting, right? The basics of management, a lot of those types of things. But marketing just seems to be kind of where I was headed.
You wanted to
right,
be
with that
an
specificity.
an expert in something.
Yeah, so essentially I started taking the marketing courses. I think the first 2 ones, well, it wouldn't have been the first 2 ones, but the most memorable ones, right before the pandemic hit, I was actually doing the market research and the CATS class as well.
Consumer behavior.
Consumer behavior, right? And it was funny because I was actually the first cohort that had the latter part of that right as COVID hit. So that was very interesting to have all those group projects right at this end. It was a lot to deal with, right? But I learned a ton in those marketing courses, probably the most out of any of them, right? I mean, the most amount of research and encompassing work, and those were really valuable for me. But essentially, as I was continuing, so the Arts Enterprise Cultural Innovation minor, it's basically a 2-year program, and it's 7 different successive courses. And at the end of it, like a lot of minor, I think there's also an entrepreneurship minor that's sort of like this. You have like a capstone project where you essentially create a business and it launches your career. And if you guys can guess what that business was, it was Hodson Productions. And that was essentially how it was born. And basically, like you stated very eloquently, basically word by word, what our vision was to basically reignite the arts community in Bellingham, a city of subdued excitement, to make it less subdued both socially and musically for the arts community, and just kind of make shows happen again and give artists the space to connect and grow and create new opportunities with each other. And basically, I mean, like you had said before, what we were doing is we were going to different venues around town, like to name the top of a few off my head, Firehouse Cafe, Karate Church, and Makeshift. Me and my co-founder Martine, even years ago before we founded Hodson Productions, had been doing that a little bit together anyways, and we were basically doing what we're doing here at different venues.
Did you know each other from high school?
Yeah, not high school, but we became really close friends freshman, sophomore year of college. And we've always had like a really good friendship, but also a pretty business relationship too. And then our other co-founder, Nick Hastings, we didn't really get in contact with him until right before we started the company. He's a little bit, he graduated a year after I did, but we were all in the music department together. They were majors, I wasn't a major, but we were all musicians together, and we knew each other from that. And Nick Hastings, he got an audio engineering degree. So he was basically before that, before we got him on the business, basically he was our tech guy using a lot of his own equipment at other venues. We soon realized it wasn't super profitable, right? Because we had to rent out the space, right? But it was still very enjoyable. So essentially how this place came about, it was super, super serendipitous, like where luck meets preparation. We had no intention of doing this at all. We just happened to be at a party at one of our friends' houses. And it was kind of like a networking party. It was kind of like classy, but the girl there was one of the general managers of K-pop Chicken and Beer downstairs. And the landlord of the space, who owns the entire building, he owns the rental apartment complex, what is now the Blue Room, this whole space, which used to be Studio B and Glow, and K-pop Chicken and Beer downstairs. And she told us that the space needed to be used, right? So then Martine was the first one who came in here, and things just kind of went from there, and he took a chance on us. So that's basically kind of like how I've progressed to this point right now.
That's amazing. That's like very serendipitous, like you said. I mean, saw an opportunity to do something that you're already passionate about. So what did you do immediately after graduating from Western?
Yeah, so
were you starting here, or was it?
So the Blue Room was a few months later. We didn't know about this space. It was like basically exactly a year ago, maybe a little bit less, like mid-November when we went to that party and first heard about this. Right after I graduated, over that summer, I was continuing an internship with Jethro Mobile, which is how I got my internship credit with them. And I was also just launching Hodson Productions. I don't even think we'd gotten our business license at that point. We got our business license in like October. We formed the LLC in like October, like November. It all happened very, very fast. Like basically right before we opened this venue. But we were basically in the beginning emerging stages of Hodson Productions. We didn't even really know what it would be. Like first we were kind of brainstorming, like, do we build a website that like connects a bunch of different artists together? Like are we going to do that? Or like we were still trying to hone in on the idea of what this is. Are we a production company, or are we more of like an online platform? And we basically solidified production company and proceeded to, the summer of 2021, we hosted a live stream at Makeshift. It was actually surprisingly successful. We ended up getting like 350 people to watch that on a sunny Friday afternoon, which I didn't know why, but it was cool. And we boosted their subscriber count on YouTube as well. And from the success of that, we continued to then host, again, like the live show at the Firehouse when COVID was sort of starting to like not go away, but things were getting a little bit more relaxed and opening up. And then we had another like open mic performance in December. That was like kind of right as we were finding out about, we didn't even have the name of the Blue Room until January or February, right? But like of this space and if we even wanted to do it. We didn't sign the lease on this place until January, like early January, 2 months before we opened.
Wow.
And we didn't even have like all our, it was a blue shell when we got here. There was nothing here. There wasn't even toilet paper. There was like no sound equipment.
Yeah,
it was
like nothing.
It was very irresponsible, to be honest, but it worked. So far, it's worked out. But yeah, basically right after I graduated, yeah, I was working that internship and just starting this company essentially. So.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like it all just happened very quickly. So you mentioned Jethro. What did you do with that internship?
Yeah. So it was basically like it was some marketing, but a lot of it was also customer service. I was creating like videos for them, doing some video editing and kind of repurposing some of their videos, doing like phone tutorials because they're a senior like basic cell phone for senior citizens, right? And like making tutorial videos on how to do this and that, and in the meantime also helping them pick up calls and troubleshoot issues with them. That was most of what I did pretty much. It was like marketing / customer service, also answering some emails, doing some stuff on their like Amazon shop back end, like tracing some products.
Very
and that
much
kind of thing.
internship.
Yeah,
Kind of
it was pretty challenging to be honest, but I learned a lot of things from that. So yeah, I think one of the things that I learned that it's hard to like say, okay, how does working at a cell phone company translate here? And it translate in the customer service aspect, right? Some of those customers were very, very difficult, and I had to troubleshoot some pretty difficult problems over the phone, and it helps me really like keep my calm, right, and like learn how to put the customer first, but also maintain the values and the rules of the business, right, and also like just understanding what other people want and communicating it effectively. And I think that was one of the main things that I learned that helped me just in business in general and running my own business. And also, they are Jeffrey and Angela. They're very, very nice people, and they're also small business owners. And I learned kind of how they handle some of those things as well, like from different business owners, right? And that helps me translate this. So, yeah.
Cool. Sounds very valuable.
Yeah.
And then you also have some work experience with IAJ.
Yeah, I'm actually still working with them on the side.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I'm doing social media management for their internal platforms, and those are their existing clients. And I'm also now doing a lot of their Google Ads and marketing as well because their previous marketing managers recently stepped down, so I've taken over a lot of that work. So, yeah.
Awesome. How long have you been doing work for them?
A little bit over a year now.
Okay.
Yeah, I had Jethro. It was mainly an internship. I worked a little bit with them, paid over the summer, but then I transitioned into IAJ later last summer, and I've been working with them since. So. Cool.
What kind of realities hit you immediately after you graduated and kind of started working and trying to figure out what you were going to do?
Yeah, that the learning isn't going to stop. Degrees are very valuable, and they help you get practical knowledge on how to do a lot of those things. But a lot of things like starting a business, you just have to learn by doing it, and some of it is trial and error.
Yeah.
And you have to keep learning, and you have to be willing to, part of my challenge too, like as a person, is I am someone who naturally, like my brain, I like to have a very consistent, like a plan, right? But what I've learned over kind of, I don't want to say the years, but like the past year especially, and throughout, doing some projects in school, is that like you have a plan, so you have a trajectory, but you have a plan knowing that plan is going to oscillate. It's not going to go how you plan. But if you don't have a plan, you're screwed, obviously. But like you need to have it, like that. You can't be so rigid that like you can't say, oh, we are doing this differently than how we had planned, but that's a commitment consistency bias. So I would say like the realities were that like I can't predict the future, right? And like there's a lot that I really don't know here, you know what I mean? And I have to continue learning. And it's a little bit daunting because it's like the cool thing about university is like you have a set structure on, it's like you don't know things, but like the people know what you don't know. But it's like when you open a business, you don't know what you don't know. And that's really scary, right? Having to put those puzzle pieces together. I mean, there's still things that I probably don't know that I don't know right now running this business that I'm always learning. So yeah, kind of just the concept that like, wow, like I'm on my own now and I don't know what I don't know. And like I have to figure this out for myself, right? Yeah. Especially taking more of an entrepreneurial path, I would say.
Right, yeah, no, that is
So.
It's a more difficult path, and it is hard. You don't have a syllabus.
Yeah,
right?
And also another reality too is just kind of like, and this sounds kind of brutal, but like people who don't know you, like running a business, they don't care about you. Like they care about their needs, and I think like people who, might have a concern or a question, like it's learning to separate yourself from the business and sort of seeing this business as an entity that you are running and seeing it from a bird's eye perspective. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on the realities after graduation, but since it has been a little bit since you graduated, it's like, can you tell us a little bit about where we are? Like, what was the conception? What was like the epiphany? It's like, oh, we want this to be the Blue Room.
I mean, I think the first thing that Martin, my co-founder, said when he walked into the room was, "This is the Blue Room," That's how the name came. We literally spent
room.
like a month coming up with that name, right? Like I came up with Hotball Productions, but like he came up with the blue. Like we were like, should we call it the Overglow? And we initially just came full circle and landed on the Blue Room. I think it was like early January, right before we really got everything launched and like the website and all that. But yeah, I guess the inception of this space, kind of like from a concept standpoint, is a multi-purpose entertainment venue that is very inclusive and gives opportunity to a wide variety of artists and people, a space for community connection and artistic development, and all ages, right? Because all ages venue that also serves alcohol is something that the city needs, right? And doesn't really exist. I don't think there's another all ages venue that serves alcohol till Seattle, at least to my knowledge, right? There might be a couple.
I haven't encountered any in my time here.
That was kind of like the main vision.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like what are your kind of like your day-to-day stuff that you do with the Blue Room? Like what are some of your tasks that you try to focus on? Yeah,
so I mean, so there's three of us, there's three owners, right? I am in charge of all the marketing promotion. I was doing a lot of the bookkeeping too, and like kind of paying some of our taxes, but thank God we're now getting that offloaded now that we have more funds to pay that.
Nice, yeah.
That was the bane of my existence. I do a little bit of that now, but I'm in charge of like paying the artists and stuff, and also like doing all the marketing, like all the social media posts, planning that. I actually make the posters too on Canva, so putting that, the Canva is the platform that we use. Maintaining, I built our website, so maintaining our website, keeping that up to date, updating some of our meta tags, trying to like maintain the SEO, right? Keeping us like third or fourth on the Google searches when people search for live music, right? That type of thing. I just launched a Google Ads campaign too for like event rentals, and that's currently in the learning phase. So I just launched that a couple days ago. So doing every now and then doing some paid marketing as well for like if we have an event, like I might run like a Facebook ad or something like that too. But day to day, generally, most of what I do is like creating posters, putting stuff up on the website, printing out posters, doing social media, doing a lot of that stuff. And also another thing that I do too is I'm responsible for booking event rentals. So another thing that we do here is private parties. So Martin, my co-founder, he's responsible for booking bands and shows. So he like knows a ton of bands. He's the one that reaches out to them, gets them the opportunity, or if we have any intakes, he basically, sets up the deal with them, sends them the the contracts, right? And then I see what he has. I put all the stuff on the website, but then I'm responsible for like the private parties. So if someone wants to come in and have like a work conference, a wedding, or if even if someone wants to throw a show here, but they have like a bill that's already put together, that's like a rental that's not hosted by the Blue Room, but someone else is an outside party. So I'm responsible for getting those events, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple times you have a couple partners.
Yeah.
Did you how was that operate? Like how was that forming the business with partners? Like was there a lot of give and take? Did someone kind of like take more charge? And then were you faced with like any sort of challenges working with partners? Or do you think you would have been better off maybe like working by yourself?
I couldn't have done this by myself. Yeah. Like, none of us could. I mean, because like I think the cool thing about what we are doing, or like each of our personalities, is like Nick, who is our sound guy, he is a tech. I mean, he built our stage basically. Like he knows sound. Like he got an audio degree, right? We couldn't run shows without him, right? So he did all that. He's also recently kind of taken charge of some of the inventory at the bar, right? And he's getting all of our stage equipment. Like he runs the shows. He does sound check with all the artists, right? Martin, my co-founder, he is like a huge network of artists. I mean, I know a good amount of people too, but he's on like a whole nother level of just knowing artists, and it's crazy. Like, and he gets people in the door really easily, really good interpersonally, really good social skills, but he's not like super tech oriented. And I'm good with like, I got a marketing degree. I know digital space, right? I managing the social media, doing paid ads, all of that stuff, right? And up until a couple months ago, doing the finances as well. So like we're all doing very different things, and we have very different minds, so it complements each other well. Right?
So in the end, it balances very well.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then if there was anything differently that you could do again, would you do it?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe like as far as like school goes, or like the venue, or just kind of like anything, or like.
I would say, was there something that could maybe streamline the process to maybe get the business started earlier? I mean.
I would say like kind of offloading some of the work earlier, even though if it was pretty expensive. Like some of the bookkeeping, I realized I shouldn't have been doing that for as long as I was. It was just really hard to like justify. I mean, there were so many overhead costs that we had to get in. It was so hard to even think about like how do we spend all that extra money on like a bookkeeper, and then giving them the trust of like giving them all our information and stuff. But I do think that would have saved me a lot of time earlier on had I done that. I think the core of that too is like coming down to like, and a message for other people too is, even if you're kind of a do-it-yourself kind of person, if you're running a business, you need to always be open to asking for help and understanding your limits. Because what I've realized too, and what I realized very quickly is if you're doing a lot of things, you're going to be half-assing some of those, right? And it's better to be solidified and do higher quality of work than to be inundated with, a whole other thing that you're not really qualified to do or you haven't had training in doing.
Knowing when to delegate and when to ask for help is important.
Very important.
Especially touching on the finance. I mean, I try to file my taxes every year by myself, do my tax returns, and I'm just sitting for like 3 hours in front of my computer on TurboTax, feeling like an idiot.
Yeah, well, I mean, and with this place, it's like there's so many different things, right? I mean, there's artist payments, there's inventory, there's all the things that we bought for startup. There's, the COGS, right? Whether that be snacks, alcohol orders, knowing the products, which of those are. It's a whole. As soon as we got the alcohol, I was like, okay, this is like we need to.
This is a lot.
Yeah. I can only do so much, right? And getting all that set up is very, very hard. So I mean, before I was doing like the marketing and the finance, and it was way too much. So. Yeah, definitely asking for help sooner.
And then how do you implement the marketing skills or knowledge that you learned at Western in your current role?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that a lot of it, I'm doing some of the stuff that I learned in like digital marketing. A lot of the paid ads hasn't started until fairly recently, and I will say I don't do paid ads for, like, it would be too expensive to do paid ads for every single show. I do like maybe a Facebook ad like once every couple months for really big shows that we're trying to promote. But I think a lot of like the communicating, like understanding our audience, right? Building just brand presence online on social media has been really helpful. And developing some of the retention strategies. Like recently we've started to have what do you call it? Like punch cards. So people get to come to like 4 shows and get a punch card, come to the 5th one for free, that type of thing. Some of those strategies, right? A lot of it is just kind of like testing, right? So I would say the digital stuff and also, kind of just a lot of the communication, the brand awareness, that type of thing. I will say a lot of like, starting this whole thing, a lot of what marketing is it's sort of like, it's just testing, right? Like, because you don't really know. It's like people like to think like they know their target audience or they know how their audiences respond. You don't. Right. You don't know until you've tested it, right? Like you have literally no idea. You can make a conjecture, but until you, and to be honest, we're still, one of the challenges for this place especially was like, a lot of people say like define your niche, and it's like, well, our niche is concerts, but we're also a multi-purpose entertainment venue. So it's like we're not just live music. I've framed us mainly as a live music venue for SEO purposes because it makes sense for us to be like competitors or in the same market as the Wild Buffalo or the Shakedown, because the majority of what we do are concerts. But we're also, we are a space for private rentals as well, right? And that's more in line of like what something like Laramont Manor would do, right? So it's really kind of like learning to target different segments. I think segmentation strategies especially are things that I've kind of been able to develop through this as well, right? Because there's different types of people that come to this venue, right? There, even within the concert space, like, the fact that we have such a broad range of acts, we have anything from classical music. We had a Grammy-nominated artist named Jennifer Knapp come a couple months ago, but like literally, like, that's not gonna bring our college crowd in, right? That's people who like know, who are elderly, right? And 95% of the people that came were like 65 plus, right? So it's targeting them, right? Knowing the platforms to target, like they're more on Facebook than Instagram, right? And also like, corporate clients who want to have an event rental here, they're not the same people who are going to come to a grungy rock show, right? So I think a lot of the challenges and what I've been able to learn from implementing from like my marketing courses are learning how to segment effectively and that kind of thing, right? And talk to different audiences.
Do you have developed consumer personas for your wide range of
a little bit, yeah. It's still developing too, and I think that like a lot of the first year in business is still, especially as we're trying different kinds of events. There's still a couple different like types of events that we haven't even like done yet, right? So a lot of it is still kind of in that process. So.
All right. So what do you think the next steps for the Blue Room are?
Yeah, further development, right? I think that in the space that we're in right now. Currently, we are, like, this is an upstairs space that is pretty exclusive, not because we want it to be, but because it kind of has to be. Like, for our shows, our ticketed shows, that is, this space is not open to the public because we need to use it for artist green room, right? So I think the next development is potentially, we're thinking about maybe, like, somewhere down the line, like renting out one of the apartments if it's vacant and having that be a green room and having this be like a VIP space potentially. Just food for thought. We haven't solidified that, but getting a little bit more furniture, right? Updating our storefront too, which is really good for physical branding as well. I think getting a couple more food options as well in addition to the alcohol. Some kind of, I mean, I think that the first year, again, of any business is really the developmental stage. I mean, for example, like we didn't have the bar, like we weren't serving alcohol till July, and that was we applied for that a month after we started, but it took 4 months to get that approved, and that was very, very challenging because that was just an insane skyrocket from a profits. I mean, that was literally like a double in revenue. It's just
absolutely.
If I had like $1 for every person that complained about us not having alcohol, I could probably afford a full month's worth of rent here. Like it's so I think just I mean, especially with a music venue, with a place that has so much overhead costs, right? It's just further development, physical developments within the space are kind of where we're headed, right?
Yeah. Are there any changes that you would make in terms of the types of performances you're having, the types of events you host, or are you happy with that?
I wouldn't say changes. So one thing that we are trying to do, and this is going to help from a marketing standpoint too, is having more consistent events every week. Because again, like I mentioned, one marketing challenge for us is being so multi-purpose that it was like to the point where we're bringing in so many different types of people, right, for a lot of these shows. So I mean, the Jam 30 thing that's actually happening tonight, which is like it's basically an open jam session that allows like artists to come in. That we have a live jam band on stage, and people can come play with them in a collaborative setting. It's free entrance, right? People can drink, right? And that's something that we're starting to establish is gaining more traction. But that's happening every week, right? And that is something that is consistent. And the human mind needs consistency, right? Another thing that this hasn't been solidified yet, but we're talking to a gentleman in the community about having like a DJ night every Sunday kind of, and having like some more consistent events. We've had those types of events before, but having it more consistent, right? So I wouldn't say like changing what we're doing. I love everything that we've done. I mean, Martin has done a phenomenal job of booking very diversely. I mean, he's booked pretty much anything you can think of, except for maybe like a karaoke night or something like that, right? I mean, we've had open mics, we've had burlesque shows, comedy shows, classical music, jazz, rock, like just literally.
Bagpipes?
Yes, we had the Celtic Festival.
Good,
we hosted the Celtic Festival, and we didn't directly book them, but we had a band called the Tannehill Weavers, who are world-class musicians.
Literally,
we've done it all. Yeah, that was a wild experience listening to bagpipes for like 45 minutes straight. But yeah, so I would just say that like just not taking away, but like having more consistency in some of these events
really
and adding
solidifying
to it.
kind of a schedule and a routine for
totally.
them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're moving a little bit away from the finance stuff, right?
Personally, yeah.
I mean, we've
outsourced that. Yeah, smart.
So what do you think the next step is for you in your career? Where do you kind of see the next few years going for you?
Yeah, I mean, like building with this space too. The cool thing about Hotball Productions as well is we also have been working to do, not a lot yet, but as we start to get more stable with this place, the goal too is to like eventually kind of have this place run itself more and also be able to run other shows as Hotball Productions at other places. Because you know, keep in mind, Hotball Productions is our company, but we're not doing business as the Blue Room. We are the parent company that operates the Blue Room, right? So we've hosted a couple events over at Pause for a Beer, right? And kind of just doing a lot more of that. Like we have a couple like in the works. I'm not going to say too much because nothing's been publicized yet, but like thinking of a couple potential festivals that we might be able to host in the future, like over the summer as Hotball Productions, and doing more like artist development, artist management from the marketing standpoint, and other show promotion outside of the Blue Room. The further that we build with this place as well. Because I mean, the vision for me personally is like not just to have not just to build a really cool, inclusive, all ages venue in Bellingham that's going to like kind of not like reignite the art scene, but really like bring the community together and give them another amazing space to be, but also to allow us to do other things too. Right.
Yeah, to kind of expand on your mission and your vision.
Yeah, I think another thing too is it's been so another cool thing about having the accounting offsource is I really want to spend more time making content on TikTok. Like I briefly launched a TikTok account like at the beginning. I made like 4 to 5 posts. One of them actually got like 6,000 views, which is pretty cool because we had like no followers, but I just have not had time to like do that. And that's another kind of opportunity that I haven't seen a lot of organizations really. Bellingham Bar and Grill, actually, I've noticed that they do really cool TikTok content. But that's one of the few. I haven't seen a lot of music venues do that, so it's somewhat of a blue ocean.
And it's kind of an opportunity because there's so much content in terms of performance.
Yeah, so that's another thing. As I get more time, I think I'm going to be tapping into doing a lot of taking that over a lot more too, and doing more, just expanding our presence on that platform, and because I do really enjoy content creation as well.
Yeah, in my current internship, I manage a TikTok account. I know it's very time consuming.
It is, yeah. I mean, you got to do it. I mean, I don't know if realistically I could do it twice a day, but at least once a day, right? I mean, it's a lot. You know?
So speaking of TikTok, where do you think the marketing industry is headed in the next few years, and especially the music industry?
Yeah, I mean, short form content.
Yep.
I will say too, I mean, this is a controversial take, but I really think NFTs in the blockchain space for musicians are going to be revolutionary.
Okay.
Especially as some of the record labels too, we've kind of realized how much they've monopolized and taken a lot of money from artists, right? And having full ownership over their work. I think that potentially non-fungible tokens, especially after that whole boom, obviously the market's like crashing right now, but I think that innovation is something that's going to be really, really revolutionary for artists just in general, and having their own work and monetizing that personally. I think that's going to be a huge thing, not just for marketing, but just in general.
Absolutely. Having a little bit more control over your own monetization of.
But I mean, from a more, I guess, immediate practical standpoint, Web3 aside, I think just short form content in general. I mean, it's obvious. This has been happening for ages now, but I mean, like Instagram Reels, that launched, let's see, that was August 2020, and that made sense, perfect sense, right? Because you had TikTok that really took storm. March 2020, their market share went like that, and then Instagram was like,
got to get back some market share.
We need to get that back. I remember like posting on Reels for the first time, and like, the exposure is still on Reels. I mean, right now, you can't, this actually pisses me off. You literally can't post a video on Instagram unless it's a Reel. And that pisses me off because it's like, if it's wide frame, it's like, it doesn't make sense. But that literally just proves that they're trying to compete with TikTok, right? So, I mean, shorter attention spans, you know, influencer marketing too, like, you know, paying people or getting other people to like do short form content for you as well, that kind of thing.
And is that something that you see kind of doing yourself for the Blue Room? Is it kind of automatic I wouldn't say artists will promote their own shows?
Yeah, so what's interesting about like, I think the TikTok could help a lot with that as well, but what's interesting about, so the way that I kind of do my promotional strategy is I don't usually like, we have so many shows, right? We have like 16 shows a month, and it's like, generally, you know, what's really hard about that is saturation, right? It's like if there's too many things going on, people don't know what to focus on, right? So what I kind of do with my general strategy is at the top of every week, I'll have like, and if you go on my Instagram, you'll see this, like this week in review, this is what we have going on. And then maybe the day of, right, or the day before, I will post like another reminder, right? But I don't usually do those posts until like 7 to 10 days before. In the meantime, we always make sure that we have our content calendar. And this is where Martin and I work really closely. Like he gets the artists together, he gets me photo content, video content. I'm responsible for making the poster, putting it on the website, and then sending all those assets to the artists. I mean, like, here is the pre-sale link, here's the Facebook page that you've been invited to co-host. Please direct people here when you share it on your social platforms, right? You know, and the attendance of an event is predicated on how early do I get that out, right? How well established are the bands, and how well are they pushing this performance, and how many other shows do they have going on? How much do they care, right? So a lot of the promotion is leveraging the bands, right? The influencers, you could say in this case, right? They're the ones, assuming they have the assets, right? And we have consent to use all the photos that we have in the photos. They are, you know, because it's like, you think about this from you know, an artist standpoint. It's interesting because, you know, I played in a band a couple of years ago, and it was always frustrating to me sometimes. I was like, why is this venue not promoting it? And it's like, now I know why, right? And it's like, so I kind of have them do a lot of that grunt work beforehand, right? We also hang a bunch of posters up around town too, right? And have physical merch. But like, they're doing that, they're getting their audiences engaged, and then I post, you know, 7 to 10 days, unless it's a really big show, right? If it's a really big show, then what I also do in addition to social media is I put a lot of our events on, like, there's 3 different calendars locally that I put it on, like Wacom Talk, downtownbellingham.org as well. And there's one other one, I think that I'm missing, but there's like 3 different, like, basically calendars, event calendars in Bellingham that I'll put it on. So it gets more organic traffic through there, and I might do a Facebook ad, right? And in that case, like, I mean, opening night, obviously I spent like 4 to 6 weeks promoting the hell out of that, right? So, you know, or if there's a Grammy nominated artist who's coming through, I'll probably start promoting that a bit earlier, right?
Right. You'll have more of a full campaign.
Yeah. But that's basically kind of, that's how this works. And it's the only way that it really works effectively is because it's like, I can't start promoting 16 events all at once, right? Like a lot of the artists have to start doing it a little bit earlier, right? And, you know, people, you know, we have a lot of web traffic. People can just see it on our website as well. So there's the awareness around there, plus the physical posters. So.
Yeah. So you're focusing mostly on organic search.
Mostly
right?
organic.
Media.
I mean, again, like it takes a while. I mean, it's interesting because, you know, you think about the most successful companies in the world. What do they spend the most money on? Marketing. But it's also like we're just now getting to the point where we are comfortably have enough capital to, you know, drop like. I mean, like I said, I just launched like a Google Ads campaign, but that's more for like private parties recently.
Right.
Like it's like we're doing it. I'm being very conservative on the budget that I'm spending for paid advertising, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you know, it's not, again, a lot of that is testing. None of that is guaranteed necessarily. And I want to make sure I'm really using those ad dollars wisely. Because obviously we can't do that for 16 different events, you know.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean,
I'm very like pick and choose about which ones that we actually want to do that for. And Martin too sometimes gives me like, because he sometimes has a better idea since he booked the bands. He's like, okay, these people have less draw, or this is maybe we should do this a little bit. Focus
He'll
more on
understand
that, right?
kind of the strategy a little bit.
Yeah. So has it been kind of hard to find a balance about how you want to spend that ad budget? Like, are you trying to focus more on one platform than the other, depending on the event?
I mean, it's pretty much just Facebook and Google. I don't do any. We did a little bit on Yelp too, but that wasn't as effective. That was kind of just, I was kind of trying it out, but it did give us some good traction. But Google and Facebook, I prefer Google Ads more than Facebook, honestly. It's the iOS 14 update made it way harder to like target people effectively too. It still works. It's good for awareness, but it's much harder for conversions, like specified campaigns, right?
Yep.
But I would say that, especially in like locally targeted areas, Google Ads, when you think about it, right? It's like the intent of someone searching for concerts in Bellingham or venues
so
in Bellingham
high,
to rent,
right?
the chances that they're going to actually click on the ad are way higher. Whereas if you're just passively scrolling, maybe you're targeted well, but it's like you're getting awareness, but the intent of that user is way higher on Google. So I prefer using that as an advertising platform a lot more. I don't do a ton of, I've done maybe 3 or 4 ads on Facebook up until this point, right?
Yeah. So you've seen what works and what doesn't. So do you have any advice for students that are about to graduate from the Western Marketing Program?
Yeah, I mean, people have varying risk tolerance, but I would say that right now is the time to take risks. You know, obviously I'm in a pretty privileged position of having.
Certainly it's worked for you.
It's easier said than done to whatever scale that you see fit. I mean, like, we were a classic example of where luck meets preparation, and we got very, very, very lucky, and we're very fortunate that we've had this opportunity, like unbelievably lucky. But I think like whatever that is that you want, like it makes a lot more sense to take the risk and potentially fail now, because you still have until like, I mean, if you're not gonna, like, I would never do this if I were 30 and having a family. Like I would be divorced by now, right? So it's the time to take those risks when you're in your early 20s, right? And you know, it's like, whether or not you have a backup plan, just be like, I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk says this all the time, right? He's like, take the risks now. Like you can always get another effing job, right? You know what I mean? Not putting down, 9 to 5s are amazing. I'm just saying, like, you know, like whatever, I feel like now is the time to jumpstart that, right? Because you might not have as much money now, but you have time, right? You have time to make up potential losses, and you know, it could work out, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. This is the time. It's a little bit more low risk to take a risk because
it's weird, right?
Because you
it's
don't
like,
have people relying on you.
Yeah, and it's scary, right? It's really, really scary to do that. You know, I mean, like we had a lot of close friends that frankly are not really our friends anymore, that we thought were on our side, that were kind of like really trashing us for doing this and thought that we were being irresponsible. And just like I would say, go with your gut. Like, don't be afraid to fail, because fail fast so that you know what doesn't work. And also I would say kind of coming full circle to what I was saying before, like there's a classic adage in business where it's like, if you never ask, the answer is always no, right? So that's kind of the core, right? You have to be willing to ask people. I mean, opportunities aren't, we kind of did have this opportunity fall in our laps, but obviously if we hadn't taken the steps to then push it further, right? Talk to the landlord, right? So just like, don't be afraid to ask for opportunities. The worst thing they can do is say no, you know. Obviously, be professional about it, but you know, just
No, I think that's amazing advice. Do you think it helped you take that risk that you had co-founders with you?
Oh,
so you weren't doing it alone?
Totally. I mean, again, I would never have been able to do this by myself, right? Like you know, it's like, Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those things where we're like, each of us, like, if we didn't have Nick, we would have no stage, no way to run shows. If we didn't have Martine, like, I mean, we wouldn't have bands being brought in. If we didn't have me, we wouldn't have a bank account or any digital presence or website or anything like that, or social media. So it's like we all complemented each other very, very well, right?
Yeah, it sounds like
and it just sort of works, right? I mean, obviously, this has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, right? I mean, and all of us have said the same thing. We can all agree unanimously, but yeah, I mean, like 100%, I wouldn't want to do this by myself. It would be very lonely, right? I would have, it would be really challenging and not super enjoyable, to be frank, because then I would be taking the load on all of those things, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I would have had to hire more people too, so.
Right, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Just to wrap up our conversation, how would you define marketing?
Marketing, I would just say basically delivering value and a message to the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
Very, very simply put. Communicating value, basically just what I said. I would put it pretty simply. Yeah, and there's a variety of different ways of doing that, but the core of it is, I mean, whether you're hanging up physical posters, whether you're advertising on a platform where you're targeting the right people in the right place at the right time, just basically getting your message in front of the right people.
Yeah, so. And I like that you included at the right time, because I think that is important.
True, yeah.
Then last question, if you weighed as much as your social security number, how much would you weigh?
Oh my. So you're asking me for my social security number?
No, this is purely for the podcast.
I don't understand. So if I weighed as much as my social security number?
If you want to go number by number, that'd be great. No, I'm joking.
I'd weigh 10 pounds because there's 10 digits.
There you go.
Ah, okay. Sneaky.
Well, nice.
Thank you so much to Ben and the Blue Room for letting us host the podcast here. We've had a great time. And if you want to follow Ben or the Blue Room on any social media, we will post the links to those down below, and they'll also be in the video as well.
Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. Make sure to follow us on our social media so you can keep up to date with our next podcast episodes. We'd also like to thank our special team behind the camera, our producers, Sara, Slone, and Karlie, Kildall, editor, Arnav, SenGupta, and product manager, Jace, Gersten. And a special thanks to our instructor, Dan Purdy.
We're your hosts, Steinar, Mikkelson.
And Talia, Aukema-Gray.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time on Marketing by the Minute on the Scene.
Yeah.